Hello, you're listening to Lists and Other Things That No One Asked For with Jesse Barbin, your weekly mini podcast where stuff usually takes the form of a list about pop culture, music, growing up. So I hope you like it. The time is coming that I need to tell my oldest child about where babies come from. And not just where babies come from, I need to tell him everything. I'm not looking forward to it, but I pride myself on being the kind of forward-thinking, progressive parent that tells their kid, all the stuff and has an open conversation. So I know a frank conversation about this and an ongoing dialogue with him is important. However, it still scares me, and if someone else would just do it for me, that would be great. My parents are funny because they're very conservative, but they also have a very wide progressive streak running through them. Like my mom wanted us all to know the correct names for all the organs and to understand where babies come from and to know a little bit about human sexuality. So they tried to give me the talk. It didn't clear up much though. I don't remember what age I was when it happened, although I do remember that they did it by reading me a picture book. According to the picture book, babies occur when a man and a woman lie down together and then a sperm and an egg meet. How they meet, or the significance of men and women lying down together, was not clearly stated and remained a mystery to me. My parents seemed relieved to have gotten that over with, and they didn't ask any additional questions, so they packed up the book and pretty much ran out of the room. Later, when I was years older, I saw that book on the bookcase and I looked through it. It turns out there were a few pages between lying down and the sperm and the egg meeting that they had simply skipped over. They had probably thought I was too young and immature to handle it, or maybe they meant to go back a few years and fill in those details, but they never did. I'm grateful that my parents talked to me about it at all, because later in life I ran into people who not only had their parents not told them anything about sex, but also they wouldn't sign the permission slip for them to get the bare minimum sex education talk that you get in public school, and they were really in the dark. School sex education at my school in the late 90s, early 2000s boiled down to this: don't. I admit that it is a succinct, clear message, but it requires the audience to listen and to keep rules, neither of which teenagers are noted to be very good at, and ultimately I don't know how practical it is. In addition to don't, there was also a dash of scared straight, and this second tier of quality sex education boiled down to don't, but if you do, here are a bunch of horrifying pictures of genitals with sexually transmitted infections on a PowerPoint we will show you right before lunch. Again, I don't know how effective this was. Another serious flaw with the public school sex education is it was generally taught by the gym teacher, and I think we can all agree that that guy is the least qualified in the whole school to teach anything, let alone sex education. The last thing I'll say about public school sex education where I grew up is it came much too late. The first serious public school talk came in 9th grade, but by then several of my classmates were already pregnant. The numbers spoke for themselves, at least where I went to school, and I think a lot of other places as well. At my high school graduation, I sat between two girls, and each was about 8 months pregnant. A lot of people in the senior class were pregnant. For a brief time, there was a rumor that went through the school that Mountain Dew lowered your sperm count, and dudes actually stopped drinking Mountain Dew for a time, which is hilarious to me, because if Mountain Dew really did lower your sperm count, they should have been flooding our school with Mountain Dew. It should have come out of every drinking fountain and been available free of charge at every tap. One thing that they never did discuss back then was consent. And as far as sex education goes, consent seems to have been discovered sometime in the late 2010s. And I'm grateful that people are talking about it now. All this is to say, I'm nervous to give my son the talk, but I have taken these missteps from my own sexual education, and I'm putting better information into the presentation I'll give to him. I'm going to tell him the whole thing too, not skip over any pages. I'll give him all the important info. We'll see how it goes, and neither of us are looking forward to it. And like I said, if anyone else would want to do it for me, that would be great. So thanks for listening. Next week I'm going to be talking about my top 10 reggaeton or Latin pop songs that I've accumulated in the last few years. You can find me on social media at Jesse Barbin. I will talk to you next week.